It's 9 o'clock and I'm live. I have no idea what I'm doing. Apparently there's at least one person other than me in this chat. Well, that'll be interesting. So, oh, just me. Well, all right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started since nobody else is here right now. Hey, welcome. Welcome to the stream. What are we doing tonight? We are attempting to install Tim Worthington's RGB mod into a top-loading NES. So I've got Tim Worthington's board and all the subsequent pieces that he sends with it. The only thing he doesn't have with it is the ribbon cable to connect board to the back of the console. But he does provide an NES video connector and a Genesis style mini DIN connector. So, and an audio out. But hey, we'll get this going. If anybody's been into the retro gaming hobby, then you're probably familiar with the NES and its lack of capabilities. It doesn't have, it can only do composite video out. So that's kind of a problem. As I hit my knee. And so this mod puts RGB into it, and then once you have RGB, you can start doing other things like upscaling it to 1080p using external scalers. Another cool thing. So let's just go ahead and get this thing going and see how this goes. I've already taken the liberty of doing a bit of work on this already, so top cover already comes off. I've got an LED mod in here that I'm going to try and clean up in the process. Hopefully that, yeah, it's completely functional, but I probably went a little overboard on the heat shrink tubing and the length of the wires, but we can clear that up. I already got the shield off, and I actually have it. Let's see, where'd it go? I actually have all the original components to the NES. So by default, the NES top loader only ships with RF audio and video. So there's the RF modulator. That's the thing that sets the channel 3, channel 4 back in the old days. And it literally just fit into this back plate, the power. A few years ago, after I bought this, I took the modulator out, and I replaced it with a composite amp. So this is a little circuit board from retrofixes.com. A couple bucks, and what it does is it takes the composite output of the PPU, amplifies it to the correct signal levels for composite video, and outputs it one of these wires. And then what I did is I also got a one of those 3.5mm jacks that you saw on like in the phones and stuff that has left channel, right channel, like composite video, and there's wired to that. And then you could just use a regular 3.5mm jack to 3.5mm jack or cable to plug it into your TV using regular composite cables. So that's probably the easiest mod you can make to the top loader NES, is to get composite video back out of it. The next step is what I'm going to do is go from S-video or go from composite video to RGB. And so we'll see how that goes. You can also, there's also a kit to put HDMI in these, and that's probably, for most people, that's probably, it's just as difficult or as easy to do as an RGB mod. And you do get 1080p video out of it. There's been some arguments, like if you have 240p, if you have RGB coming out of your console, then with an external scaler like the OSSC, then you can just push that up to whatever resolution you want. And eventually there'll probably be scalers that take 240p and bump it up to 4K. Do we need that? Probably not, but it'll be an option. So we'll get that out of the way. I am as you noticed, I am replacing this back plate. I replaced it a couple of months ago with a new rear panel from Laser Bear Technologies. It's a guy who does 3D printing, and so he does this 3D print. So what this does is it adds the Super Nintendo N64 and GameCube style multi-AV out connector to the back of this. You can get this with a like a Genesis or Mega Drive style DIN connector, but for me, I was like, I just want all my Nintendo consoles to have the same connector, so I went with this. It does make things a little more expensive, like on the component, like getting cables and stuff are a little bit more expensive for the multi-out versus the DIN, but I just kind of wanted consistency for the make. So all my Nintendo consoles will have and multi-out. See what's going on. I've been thinking this over. I was thinking this over a few nights ago. I'm actually not going to start with the RGB mod first. I'm actually going to start with wiring this up, because typically what you see in the videos is you install the RGB mod, which what you have to do is you have to desolder the PPU, put a socket in there. This sets like that, and then you solder your ribbon cable from here, and you run it back to whatever you're doing for your output. My thinking is getting all the wires soldered to this is going to be really challenging later, but soldering to the RGB mod is going to be, or the main board is going to be way easier, because it's going to be right here, invisible under the light, and I can actually work on it easier. So I'm actually going to start with this first. And like I said, it didn't come with any ribbon cable, but I was going through my trash a while back, and I found this old USB ribbon cable that came out of a computer that my family bought in like 2000. It's a 10 wire ribbon cable, like it's for USB. And when I compare that to what Retrofixes sent me when I did the composite amp, other than discoloration, that wire is the same gauge. So I'm assuming it's going to be just fine, because I mean, if professional modders like Retrofixes or Voltar or GameTech US are using this gauge of wire, this should work too. So I'm actually going to start with this, soldering it to this, and then I'll work on getting the RGB mod installed, and then we'll wrap this around and get it installed, hopefully. So this is going to be tedious stuff. So move that out of the way, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to grab my crappy helping hands. Really don't have anything better. And I've actually went through and looked at the wiring guide for this. Actually, I'm gonna flip it. So that's actually top compared to what the pinout of the RGB board versus the pinout of this. And I'm going to try and hopefully keep track of it all. First thing I need to do is use my lovely old solder paste, because because I don't have any no clean and I'm cheap and I've got a lot of this stuff left over and really don't plan on replacing it anytime soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these wires. I'm going to just give it a little twist. And hopefully solder them without melting them into pieces. Where's my solder? I'll just get out my crappy solder. And guys, you know, talk about having quality stuff. I've been using. I bought this coil of Radio Shack solder 15 years ago. I'm never going to run out of it. I'm never going to run out. So I might as well just use what I got instead of trying. And honestly, for the stuff I do, I'm not selling this stuff. So if it's for personal use. If I was if I was in a business like Retro Fixes or iFix Retro or Voltar, I would go out and get the $500 soldering station. I'd go out and get really good flux and solder. But I'm just using what I got. A lot of this stuff I bought at Radio Shack before, long before they closed. So we'll just go ahead and get this started. A sponge. I'll be right back. I need to put some water in the sponge. Oh. Okay, intermission's over. Stuff my sponge back in the soldering station. I have a cheap Weller soldering iron that I bought from Sears a couple years ago, so we'll just start. That's what I use. I did put a new tip on it. I played around with this. I'm using the canonical chisel tip because by default this thing ships with a just a flat tip. And it worked pretty well. Some modders I know like to use the chisel tip. I've not tried this yet. It probably works really well, but it's kind of big for what I'm going to be doing. That for at least my skill level. The canonical is just a little bit smaller, but still get that point that allows you to work really well and stuff. So let's get this going. I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on. A little bit of solder on the soldering iron. Get my flux over here. And dip a wire in the flux. A little bit of tin on those wires. They'll help them solder on easier, and it keeps them from fraying too. So. Like I said, this is going to be tedious work. Don't have any background music for you guys. Okay. Just a little bit of flux and a little bit of solder. Things go really, really well. And honestly, I didn't realize how much flux made a difference to soldering until probably like 10 years ago. I'd tried soldering and I never had any much luck with it. It's like you watch the videos and it looks really, really easy, and then you go do it yourself and it just sit there with the iron going forever, and it never feels like it's getting hot. Never feels like the solder is melting onto the wires. And then I discovered flux. Man, that makes the world of difference. My wife is messaging me. A little bit more soldering iron. Yep. Hit the wrong one. Hit the wrong one. If I was smart, I'd just dip them all at once. But I'm not. Alright, I think I got 2 more left. What's those? No? Okay. These 2. 2, 3, 5. That one. Absolutely no flux on it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now we have 10 wire. We have 10 wires. And we're gonna have some fun. I'm trying to get this guy to line up. So I'm looking back at my notes and it said I wanted to go a bit like this. I want to fan them out. And the idea is we'll go up to the bottom of the board, kind of like that. I think you can see that very well. And we'll see what happens. Up so that you can't see it. I think we'll just try doing 2 at a time. I mean, once I get the first one in, then it'll go way easier. Just a little bit of flux. Happy little trees, right? I'll load up my soldering iron. I know this isn't the proper way to solder, but when you're getting things started, it is the easiest. And there we go. All right. And that's 2 wires done. Takes nothing to get it started. All right. Next 2. Try and feed in. We get harder the more we go. 3 and 4. And I'm just going to take a little bit of flux. Drop it on the board. And we'll solder. 4. I'll pop it off the helping hand just so I can see it easier. Work with it a little bit easier. We're talking about some really I'm gonna try and see if I can get more of these in. And then we'll just go bam, 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 bam on the soldering iron, and this will be done. Now I'm thinking, did I get this backwards? Yeah, I got it backwards. Oh well. I have to note that on my sheet. I go to solder the other end. And we can signal test, and we can do a signal tester to make sure we don't things not going where they're supposed to. Come on, there we go. Maybe? Maybe? Ah. All right. Some really crappy flux. It does work, even though it's Radio Shack, it's old. It does its job. It melts, it makes the solder flow, and at the end of the day, I mean that's really what's important, right? Does it keep saying my audio bandwidth is? It shouldn't be terrible. Just check this. Okay. No. Okay. Audio's fine. Just shut up, YouTube Studio. All right. So, whoop. Put a little bit on there because I want to make sure I get the wires up nice and close to the board. All right, now we're just gonna go down the line. If I do this correctly, we have one soldered connector. A lot of extra flux on it. That's what we're working on. Oop. No, I'm going to focus. Okay, anyway, so that's part 1. And I'm just going to cut this off to length when I need it. The next part is the scary one. Because I need to remove this chip off the board. Yeah. So take that off. I'm going to set that aside. And this is where things can go really bad. And honestly, I'm a bit nervous on doing this. But I've practiced a couple of times. In fact, I'm probably going to practice again before I do this. Before I unsolder all of these pins. And probably the one that's going to be my biggest pain in the butt is the ground. Because I was testing out, I've been practicing desoldering. With this is a little, this is a PCB from a mouse. As you can tell, I have lots of flux on it where I've been testing. And luckily it's got a little dip package. It's not a through hole. Like the hole is not lined with copper. It's just punched through and then there's a solder pad on this side. So it is a little different, but it does give me good practice on, you know, using the desolder gun to pop the solder, to vacuum the solder off. So that's what I'm gonna do first. I'm actually gonna practice on this before I get into actually desoldering the Nintendo, because I really don't want to break it. I mean, it's not my childhood Nintendo. I have no idea what my childhood Nintendo is, but you know, they're not cheap by any stretch of the word. Well, they are cheap by some stretch. Like a new next gen consoles are going to be really. But still, like $100 for a top loading NES is quite a bit of money for you to just throw away. So I don't have a fancy Hako desoldering gun. I've got this. It works. I mean, I tried this the other day. I was like, oh, where have you been my entire life? So it's really simple. All I'm doing is pressing the bulb, going in, and then heat up and then sucking, and then sucking. And I can do that again. All kinds of smoke, because we have flux everywhere. Don't inhale the smoke. Is that loose? Yep. That third one's not loose. That one's loose. Loose. That one's loose. That one's loose. That one's loose. That last one is not. And maybe. So you know what? I'm just gonna go over them again just to be safe. Because once this is loose, it will literally just, at least this small package, it will fall out. Yeah, I think this other side's falling out now. Yep, okay. Now, no pressure hardly at all. Well, I say that. And now I've stuck. Yep. There we go. We're out. And none of the pins are broken. So that's a good warm up. And now I think it's time to try it on the real thing. So just to reorient myself, this is the PPU. So it is all of these right through here. Now, unfortunately for you, I'm going to kind of, well, I could probably, let me see if I can zoom this in. So you get to watch a zoomed in, a really crappy zoomed in view. Because I'm gonna need to have as much patience, steadiness as I can. So holding it up to the camera is not going to be that good of an idea. So I'm going to start with one side, go down it, make sure there's a good layer of flux. PCV, because the flux is what's going to protect, I think, if I've listened to people correctly and everything's right on the internet, the flux is what's going to protect things from burning. Because the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to burn the pad. If I burn the pad, I'm kind of screwed because I really don't have the technical detail of scraping a trace and soldering a wire to it. So here we go. And I'm probably going to leave one pin on this side soldered until I get this side done, and then I'll do the last two, and then it should just fall out. Here we go. There's definitely some that went way better than others. This first one didn't go very well. These two, these three. And it could, and I have to look at the pin out because I was testing, and if one of these pins is in the ground plane just sucks all the heat away from the, and I can't get the solder hot enough. When you run out of smoke, that means you run out of flux. And when you run out of flux, things start to burn. I'm gonna give those three right there one more shot. If I can't get them out, then I'll go on. And then what I may try is just using a soldering iron to heat it up. And maybe a wick or a solder braid. I mean, I got most of them, and I have to work on those. I'll just have to work on those few that's giving me a problem. But let's go on to the other side, and let's see if we can have more luck over here. All right. Let's see how we did here. Good. A little bit of flexing. That one's good. 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 That one needs a little bit of equation. I think they're just stuck to the wall. The solder is pretty much removed. So I'm just going to use a soldering iron. I think I want to add solder. I just want to remove solder. I'm just going to use a little bit of heat to move these pins around. Kind of spring-loaded. Almost burned my hand off. They kind of got a little spring to them, so they're kind of pinching. Let's go back over a little bit. We'll go back over them a little bit and see if we can get any more solder out. Yeah, the problem is like the chip is actually like kind of pinched. The pins are a little bit more narrow than the holes, and so it gets hot. It melts the solder, but then it leans against the wall of the hole, and then it dries or cools, and then it just sticks to the wall. I mean, it's to be expected. And this is going to be the most tedious part because I don't want to, because if I'm not careful, I'm going to break a pin, and then I'm going to be screwed. I'm going to have to reach out to all the modders because nobody's really doing mod repair. Like the big modders that names got known, like Voltar, Game Tech. A lot of them are not doing. I don't know about Voltar. A lot of them don't do repair service anymore. So if I screw this up, yeah, it's gonna. I found somebody who's really good at electronics locally, which probably wouldn't be that hard. Where I live. I see some. There are 3 pins over here that are not melting. I can see this. I can see the solder. Yeah, you can. With focus, you would be able to see it. You can see the shininess. Those 3 pins. Those 3 pins still have solder on the top, so they are not loose. Now I've stopped talking, so I know I'm making very entertaining videos right now. Okay, it is. I've been going at this for an hour and a half. I am going to call it for today. Made some really good progress. We got a lot more progress to go. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to kind of get rid of this solder flux so it doesn't kind of ruin the board until I come back and work on this again. It's been fun. I got 2 likes out of this video, so thanks for anybody who stopped by and watched. I didn't see any participants in the chat, but whatever. Didn't expect to see anybody, and we'll try this again another day and see if we can get those last few pins out. Or I may try and do it off stream, and we'll continue on with the easy stuff. This is the hard thing. Getting this done is the hard part, and once this is done, then everything else should go like cake. Till next time, have fun.